Thanks, John. Bob, you talked when you came in about confidence levels being low within the squad. You've had 2 games, you haven't managed to get the win yet. What's confidence like now?
Up slightly. I think players see progress, feel good about training. There was certainly a sense coming off the field against Watford that the all-round effort was stronger. So those things help, but we also know that we have to continue to work to turn the positives into more points. So up for sure, but with still a lot of work to do.
You said last week you are in a relegation battle, the table doesn't lie. Do you think now that could be the theme of the whole season, or do you anticipate changing things more quickly?
The hope is that the work that's being put in is going to turn into results. And I think I was pretty clear last week to say that we're honest. If you look at the table at any given moment, you have to understand what you see. But at the same time, if we improve, if we continue to grow as a team, if we get more confident, then I certainly hope that in a few weeks' time we're not having the same discussion.
The third game on Monday against Stoke, they had a poor start to the season, but they've since gone on a bit of a run. How difficult and how important is that game for you?
Again, very important. You're right on target. Stoke didn't start well, but they found their form a little bit. You have a player like Shaqiri who maybe has a late start and doesn't start the season in top fitness. He's certainly been better in recent weeks, and that front four caused problems. Their movement, Shaqiri coming from the right side in, finding space between the lines. Arnautovic, pretty clever with his movement from the left side. And Joe Allen is a good player, and everyone here knows Joe Allen, and Boney, so you know what they're about. But I think those 4 players require a good attention and a good understanding defensively of how we need to handle things.
Joe Allen, you mentioned, was linked with a return to this club earlier in the year. It didn't happen. Are you disappointed you haven't got a player like Joe Allen here under you?
It's not easy for me to comment on things, discussions that took place before I arrived. I've seen Joe enough times in his career, have respect for him. But at the same time, for me, the first thing that's been on the priority list is getting to know the players here, trying to figure out with each guy how I can help them get better and how we can, as a team, grow. So honestly, I've just concentrated everything in that direction since I arrived.
And Wilfred Boney also, perhaps the last successfully regular goal scorer the club has had here. Are you lacking that kind of figure at the moment, or do you think you have one?
I hope we have one. Borja was an important signing for the club. He's still adjusting to a new club and a new league. Fernando Llorente has had a little bit of an injury, so we haven't been able, since I arrived, to get everything out of him. But I'm hoping that we have dangerous players. I think in 2 matches, Gylfi has found good positions and obviously scored an excellent goal against Arsenal and was put himself in some good positions to score against Watford. So in all ways, when we're trying to grow as a team, we're trying to take advantage of the talent we have. We're trying to be improving in terms of creating advantages and knowing how to score goals and knowing how to be, as a team, more of a threat.
Jefferson Montero, we saw didn't start the training session with you this morning. How far off fitness is he?
He's made great progress this week, but he's still going to need a little bit more time. But back on the grass, working very hard with Rich Buchanan, so I'm really positive there. I would expect that he will return to full training within a few days. Maybe if we get lucky, it's possible for Monday, but he's close. So if not Monday, then I expect it's coming pretty soon.
You've got a new Chief Operating Officer appointed, Bob, Chris Pullman. I suppose from an outside perspective, it's an increase of the American influence in a sense. Does that influence extend to your part of the operation, or is it distinct from what happens on the field, his responsibilities?
I think that from a business perspective, Steve and Jason felt very strongly that Chris's background is terrific and that he's a real he brings a lot to what they want to try to do on the commercial side. When I met Chris and his wife a couple of weeks ago, I found that we have a lot of friends in common, so that was nice. He played in high school with a player that played for me at Princeton and then played for me with the Chicago Fire. So we have some good contacts, but we'll enjoy the work together. But I think my main responsibility on the commercial side is making sure first that we have a good team and that we take points and that we're fun to watch and people are excited and showing up at the stadium. And then as I have tried to show since I arrived, it's important for me to be part of things. So again, whether it's with supporters, whether it's in certain situations with charities appearances, I want to make sure that I represent the club in all the right ways. So there'll be an area where we certainly share some of the same interests and ideas, but my focus will still be, as always, with the players and the team and trying to make sure that part's right.
You're renowned, Bob, as a good communicator, a good talker. There's a guy down the road at Cardiff City, I don't know if you've heard of him, Neil Warnock, also talks a pretty good game. Said today that he's at the biggest club in Wales. What do you make of that?
I spent a few days in Cardiff during the Olympics. That's my experience with Cardiff so far. So since I arrived this time, I think I've told you that for the first few weeks, my experiences took me from the Marriott to Fairwood, here to the Liberty. I've expanded this week because my wife and I now have moved out of the Marriott into a nice apartment. But the rest, I'll leave for Neil.
That's a very brief answer for you.
I'm going to stay away from that one today.
Okay, thanks.
Bob, I suppose Chris's job will be made a lot easier when you start winning games. I mean, the two go hand in hand, really, don't they?
100%. So that's the responsibility of the manager at any club, to make sure that you win games, to make sure that the football that gets played is fun to watch. People are proud of the team every time they step on the field. So that's where my focus and efforts always lie.
It's only 2 games so far, but how relieved will you be to get that first win under your belt? Because fans of every club look for a bounce when the manager comes in, don't they?
They do, for sure. The bounce is talked about, and then you have to make it happen. I'll be excited when we get that first win. I'll be pleased for the players. I see the way they work every day. We've talked a lot about confidence. I think they need the reinforcement. Could have happened last week. The game at the Emirates was probably a game where more than anything we had a chance for a point. I'm not certain that we put ourselves in a great position to take 3. But coming off the field against Watford, I think we felt like there was more there for us. When it doesn't happen that day, you remember the feeling, and then you make sure that you look at some of the positives. That's what we did with video this week. We tried to make sure that the players could see some of the things that we think are going in the right direction. the moments when we chose to press, reactions. I think we won the ball higher up the field more than we had so far this year. I think we created some good advantages, but I also tried to give them some examples of how we can be a little sharper with some of those moments when we can be a little more dangerous, a little more of a threat. So that's where we're working.
So you're sensing they're closer to making that step under you?
I do, yeah, for sure. I think they feel good about what we're trying to achieve. Look, tough run of fixtures at the beginning, managerial change. All of a sudden, maybe everybody's starting to feel like a little bit unlucky in this whole thing. And since I arrived, I think the idea is let's not worry about the luck. Let's worry about trying to improve in all the right areas. And if we can make the package better in each situation, then our chances to win matches goes up because we're a better team.
So you're not unlucky as such?
I don't believe too much in that side of it. I mean, sure, on a given day, you can have a call go against you. You can have some chances go off the post or the crossbar. But in the long run, your ability to become a good team is based upon doing so many little things right. It's based upon making sure that within your squad, as many players as possible are playing at their best level. So these are the kind of things that make more sense to me than going on about luck, referees, and all that kind of jibber-jabber.
I suppose Stoke have done what you want to do. In other words, they had a terrible start to the season, really.
Mm-hmm.
But they've got on a run, and they've got that word momentum.
Exactly. You see what happens when you get an important result, when players start to get a little sharper. I keep talking about the form of players. It's no coincidence that if you were to compare Shaqiri's form right at the start versus what we've seen lately, he has a summer like many players with the Euros, comes in a little bit late, maybe isn't at his best form at the start, but slowly but surely he's a good player. And so for them to be successful, yeah, they count on him. And I think we have players that fit that category for us.
Do you think they'll be different to Watford in that, particularly their front runners are much more mobile than maybe you faced last week? Will they be a different sort of challenge, though?
Yes. I mean, Watford is a little more direct. A lot of what they did starts with just the way Dini and Igalo played off of each other. This time round, you have Boney, who can still be that strong presence up top, occupy your center backs. But then it's the movements of Shaqiri, Joe Allen, and Arnautovic that become very important for them. And so for us, it's just having an idea in each situation how we can handle things. Awareness. It's not that you give, for example, with Shaqiri, it's not a one-man job defensively. It's an understanding within our team of how he moves and how in different situations we have to sense where he's going and know how we're going to deal with it.
You talked about Boney earlier, and Graham mentioned that he was probably the last prolific goal scorer that Swansea had. Do you feel you've got that in either Borja or Llorente or both, or do you feel maybe it's the sort of team where goals are going to have to be spread around more and you won't be able to rely on one player?
I think it's too early for me to give you a great answer on that one. I certainly am hopeful that with Fernando and with Borja that we have players with enough talent and that we can work with them in the right way and turn them into big goal scorers for our team. But I also understand that in certain situations you've got to get goals from different people, and so when you look across in all directions, there's room for improvement. And as much as we've had good discussions in the last few weeks about Mo Barrow, I think we'll all feel like we're making more progress when we also see him starting to add more in the way of goals. Gylfi has shown in the past he can get some goals. Keeson Young is a player who at times in the past has scored some goals. I thought overall against Watford, it was pretty solid from Key. So hopefully that's something to build on. So, you look in all directions. You're trying to get all hands on deck and trying to see if we can raise the level across the board.
And you mentioned an assistant. Are you still looking, or is that in process? Or?
In process with the list of daily activities. It's not been the first priority, but it's still in the process.
Could it be after the international break now, you think?
We'll see. Don't have a good answer for that one.
Okay. Cheers.
Bob, we were talking to Alfie Mawson yesterday, and obviously, you must have been pleased with what he delivered against Watford. And I was struck really by, bearing in mind how young he is, his maturity in terms of knowing what's needed in the Premier League and how to deal with the Premier League. And he was saying that to turn the tide, he feels that Swansea might just have to win ugly at some point, that it might not be about beautiful football, it's just about getting that goal, whether it's a pretty goal or not, and that's the way the tide turns. That's the realities of how the way the tide turns. Would you agree with him, or is that going against what you're wanting to do in terms of improving performances all the time?
No, there's something to be said for that. It doesn't mean that we won't work every week to try to make our football better. I still believe that you become a good team by becoming more complete, by having different ways to win. Certainly, Alfie's idea that as a team that we can defensively be stronger, not give away goals or not give away soft goals, improve ourselves in areas like set-piece play and attacking set pieces. And understand that on a given day, a clean sheet and a well-executed set piece can still give you 3 points off of a 1-0 win. So there's not one part of us that would be unhappy with that. But we continue to try to work in all ways. Very pleased with what I see from Alfie. For a young guy, he's got great presence. He goes on the field with confidence. He's the kind of player that no matter who he's up against, I think he's excited for the challenge. And so that kind of mentality goes a long way towards becoming a better team. And for a debut match last week, I think we all were happy for him and even more pleased about what it means for our team moving forward.
He seems to have a supremely practical streak, and the fact that he said, a lot of these players that he's coming up against, or could potentially be coming up against, he's watched on Match of the Day and various programmes. But when he's going out there to play them, he's not there to be mates with them. He's not interested in being mates with them. He just wants to go out there and get stuck in. I mean, obviously you value that sort of attitude. For sure.
I tell the story many times with the U.S. team, Jay Demerit. And Jay's background was interesting. He came to England. He worked his way up. He ended up at Watford. And he was a player that no matter who we played, who he was up against, as he was leaving the dressing room to get ready for the game, he'd give you a little wink like no problem. And he was excited for the challenge of playing against big players, Ibra, Wayne Rooney, didn't matter. And I see a lot of that in Alfie as well. He's not afraid of these situations. I think he's worked hard and has looked forward to these opportunities. And for me, it's the way top defenders think. He's not overwhelmed by anything. He's excited for the challenge.
And he says he's not fazed by the fact that he's a newbie in the Swansea squad and obviously only just made his Premier League debut. He says he's not afraid to tell more senior members of the squad, to communicate with them, to tell them we need to be doing this, we need to do this, that and the other. Is that an attitude you welcome as well, or is that something you've got to temper a little bit? Because obviously you've got to deal with a lot of different egos and a lot of different sensibilities.
Leadership comes in many different forms. And so, sure, if you go by the book, everyone talks about sort of senior leadership and guys that have been there, and that counts for a lot. But at the same time, when a game starts, players who talk, players who are on their teammates to keep them alert, keep them sharp, players that have high expectations for themselves and are willing to take responsibility. You need as much of that kind of leadership as you can get. And oftentimes, I shouldn't say oftentimes, but sometimes you have a young player who he's been in that role on other teams, and when it's his turn, he's going to give it the exact same way. He's not looking around for others. He's ready to step up himself, and I think that's something that we all feel really good about.
Thank you. Best of luck.
Thank you.
Okay, folks. Cheers very much.
Thank you,
Thanks a
Bob.
lot.
Okay, thank you.
2 minute embargo.